Hi guys, so we are back with another video. So today we are going to be talking about egg freezing. So number one, I am 30 years old. I just turned 30. I am single, so not dating anybody in particular at the moment. So there's no telling when I might be getting married or when it might be time to have children. I think I talked in another video about kids a little bit, but basically I wanted to look into freezing my eggs just so that I have more options going forward. Like if I say reach my 40s and I'm just having children, you never know what might happen. Thankfully, I do have coverage through my job, so I do not have to pay the full cost of egg freezing. Egg freezing can be very expensive if you do not have it covered through your insurance, and most medical insurance does not cover it, unfortunately. So I think normally it would cost maybe like $10,000 or even like $20,000 to do egg freezing. I do not have to pay that much because, like I said, we have fertility coverage through my job. So I basically just have to pay my deductible and then up to my out-of-pocket max. And my out-of-pocket max for my insurance is like $2,500. And I have already spent like maybe $500 on like other medical things throughout the year. So basically, I'm only paying about $2,000 to freeze my eggs. So for me personally, I felt like it was worth, spending that amount of money. For other people who don't have coverage, it may not be worth it, but I just wanted to put that out there as kind of something that I am doing for myself. So that's kind of why I decided to do it. So I'm going to be doing a series of videos. So this first video is kind of why I decided to do it, my first doctor's appointment, the blood work that I got done, and then there's going to be another video where I'm going to go through the process of actually preparing for the egg retrieval, because you have to do injections and like a bunch of other type of stuff. I'll get into that in that video, and then I'll probably do one more video on the actual day of the retrieval and kind of how many eggs they were able to get and what the recovery process looks like. So one thing to note is that by the time this video is up, everything will already have been done. So you may notice that things are spaced out a little bit. I actually spaced it out a little bit on purpose after I had my initial doctor's appointment. So when you start to see the dates, don't think that, I had to wait that long. It was really just, my choice to kind of space things out a little bit. So the video that I'm about to insert now, which is of my first doctor's appointment, was actually a few weeks ago. I should be going back into the doctor in a couple weeks to actually get the process started. So I'll go ahead and insert that footage now, and then I'll come back and I'll talk about the blood work and everything like that. Hi guys, today is Tuesday, August 24th, and this morning I had my initial appointment for my egg freezing. So today was the initial checkup / consultation. So I went to the doctor. Of course, they had to verify my insurance and all that, which I have 2 insurances because I talked about that before. And then I went to the doctor's office and we just kind of talked about my history, like, do I understand the process, and things of that nature. So they ask you if you've been pregnant before, including any abortions or miscarriages or any of those kinds of things. I've never been pregnant before, so none of that. They ask you if you have any other significant medical history, like any type of diseases like diabetes, high blood pressure, thyroid issues. I have had some thyroid issues, so he made note of that. They also ask about some of your family history. They ask you if you have any history of STDs, because some of those can impact your fertility. They ask you if you have major issues with your periods, or if you have pain with sex, or things of that nature. I don't really have any of those problems. And then what else? Yeah, just a bunch of questions. It's pretty straightforward, that part. So then you go from there into the exam room. And in the exam room, I had to get, he did, I don't know, how when you go to the gynecologist and they kind of press on your stomach, here. I don't know what they feel for exactly, but anyway, he did that. So I guess they can feel if your uterus is weird or something. And then they did the vaginal ultrasound. So they have the ultrasound up in there, moving all around. They look at your uterus, look at your ovaries. And he said my ovaries look fine, my uterus looks fine. And then he was counting how many follicles he could see on the ultrasound and he counted 16 follicles, which that's basically like the upper limit of how many eggs you can get. So then I left from there and I went to the lab, got my blood drawn, which it took them a while to get everything sorted out because there's like 3 different sets of blood work. So there's like one like regular lab blood work, and then there's one like 2 different like kits that go off to like a separate lab for processing. So that kind of took the lab a little bit of time to sort everything out. I'll talk more about the blood work once I get the results. I don't want to go into detail of what was ordered because I don't have the sheets with me anymore, so I can't really tell you what was ordered. But when the results come back, I'll definitely come and talk about the blood work that they ordered. I know they check for like if you are a carrier for any type of genetic diseases. I know they check for that. They do basic like hepatitis and things of that nature they check too. So that's pretty much it for now. So right now we just wait for the results of the blood work, which should be coming in probably later this week. And then in about 3 weeks, I'll go back for another appointment, which will be another ultrasound. And if everything goes well, I'll probably be starting my cycle around that time, or I may wait for another like week or 2. We'll see how that plays out. So yeah, I'll update you guys as we go along the process. All right, so as I mentioned in that little clip, I had to do 3 sets of blood work. So the first set was just kind of regular blood work that they can do in any like CPL or whatever lab. So the things that they checked me for were, they checked me for rubella, they checked me for varicella, they checked me for hepatitis B, they checked me for hep C, they checked me for RPR, which I think is the syphilis test. And they also checked HIV. And what else did they check? And then they also checked prolactin, which is like used in fertility. I've never had that checked before, but that's all normal. And then they checked my TSH. So the only thing that was not normal was my TSH, which technically is actually normal. The last time I got my TSH checked, it was actually above the normal range. So now I'm in the normal range. It's like 3.1, but they said for fertility, they like the TSH to be under 3. So they actually put me on thyroid medicine. So I'm taking that now. But the good thing is because I was abnormal before and now I'm technically normal, that means that my other thyroid supplements that I was taking were actually working. So that's good news. So the second set of blood work was through something called repro source, and so that was basically for like just the fertility stuff. So they checked like LH, which is like 3.05, and I'm sharing these numbers just in case anybody else is watching that and they want to know, like, for example, like based on my numbers and things like that, like how many eggs I was able to get. So I did kind of want to put that out there. So yeah, LH is 3.05. I have FSH, which is 4.5. There's something called estradiol, which is 58.17. And my AMH is 1.06. And then inhibin B is 109.6. So actually, let me go back. So the AMH, it says that satisfactory is 0.7 to 3.5. So I'm in the satisfactory range. And then the inhibin is also in the satisfactory range, which is above 64. So everything is like showing as normal. And then from that, they calculate something called an egg retrieval score, which they said is 11, which is good. And then they said that compared to other 26 to 30-year-old women, my egg retrieval score is average. So nothing really of note here. And then the third set of blood work was it's through a service called Invitae. And this is actually really cool because they literally just take your blood and then they can check whether you're a carrier for like 289 different like diseases basically. And so things like sickle cell, which is very common in Black people, which I was actually very interested in the result of that. So I'm not a carrier for sickle cell. They did give me like 1 out of the 289 things that I was a carrier for. I won't mention that in this video because that's not really related to this topic at hand. But it's just good to know, like, if you are a carrier for anything, because what can happen is if you end up having children with somebody else who's also a carrier for it, then your kids have like a 25% chance of getting that disease. So depending on what the disease is and like how serious it is, you may want to be mindful about who you have children with if you are a carrier for something. And I'll put the link down below to this in vitro testing, because it's like $250 if you don't go through insurance. It's way more expensive through insurance. So in my case, I went ahead and went through insurance because I know that I'm about to reach my max limit anyway. So it has just been a waste of money for me to self-pay. But if you're just doing this for your own knowledge, I would definitely recommend everybody like pay the $250 and check yourself. And if you have a partner, like get them checked too, because you don't want to be surprised by any type of, genetic disease that your children may have, when for a total of $500, you could have known ahead of time. So I'm definitely going to research this, and most likely, if I do, plan to have children with somebody, I would definitely want to get them tested, and hopefully they are not also a carrier for the same thing, because that would be horrible. So that's all I have to say about that. So there's not really anything else I wanted to share in this video. So going forward, the next video will be kind of the process of, all the injections and everything I have to do, all the doctor's appointments, the monitoring, all that good stuff. And then the final video will be kind of the results. So like how many eggs were we able to retrieve, and, what the recovery process looks like. So stay tuned for the rest of those videos.